Welcome to BoxTheBase. I'm your host Vic, and this is my co-host Josh, and we're back for another exciting episode of the podcast. There's a lot of MLB to be talked about, so we're gonna jump right into it. Let's get it started with the Marlins, and I'd love for you to open up and kind of give us your thoughts, because I mean they've been playing honestly, they've been playing some of the best baseball in MLB since like what, mid-June.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that their offensive numbers in June, like almost in every category, they were top five. They've been playing like unbelievable baseball, and as a true Marlins fan, I won't lie. I'm sure you thought it too, and I'm sure everyone else thought it as well. That after that sweep by the Rockies, the season was gonna go in the dump, and ever since then they've been playing some pretty damn inspiring baseball, and I think you can credit that not only to the team but Clayton McCullough as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely just piggyback off of that and say you definitely put that, not only on the players, but of course the coaching staff. And I think really I mean, like you said, like when they lost that series to the Rockies, you were like, I'd say the season is going to like unravel right here and go downhill. But no, it really hasn't. I mean, they finally lost last night on the road after having 11 straight. I think yesterday would have been 12.
11 franchise record, by the way. 11 was
Yeah.
a franchise record.
So I mean, and in that span, they had what, an 8 game winning streak too.
Yes, sir. We got robbed of 9 by the MLB umpires.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the MLB umpires in a sec. Because even though this is a topic for later in the video, I think it does add to something that we will mention later. But I mean, yeah, it's honestly been pretty inspiring, and I have said, and I want to bring this part up because I have said it on like my Twitter and stuff, and just in general online. I do think that while the Marlins have been playing some great baseball and they have put themselves in a bit of a spot, like I think they're now. I don't know the exact number. Maybe you can pull it up, but they're pretty close to like a wild card spot right now if they keep
Seven
like,
and a half, I believe, the last I saw.
yeah. So they're, I mean, they're pretty close to a wild card spot. But honestly, I really do think, and at this current moment, nothing of their current play, which is might sound a little, I don't know if you'll disagree, but I think right now nothing of their current, play should really change any of the broader plans that this team had. Meaning, if this team went into the year and they're like, if we're not good, we're gonna trade off a few pieces, get value back, that's fine. I think now, though, it changes a little bit because obviously games have to be played, players have to perform, and certain guys have trended in opposite directions. I mean, we saw it last night. I think last night solidified it for sure. Sandy simply does not look like he's a tradable piece. You're not going to get proper value for him, in my opinion. And he just hasn't been good. Like this season, he just hasn't been good. I think he owns the worst starting pitcher ERA. It's not good. I mean, someone like Edward Cabrera, he he has finally started to show his true potential. But to me, not that it worries me, but it just I question how long is he gonna sustain this run, and has he finally unlocked himself, or is this just a hot streak and team should capitalize and move him? And I mean, he's always been an injury guy, but it's never been like major injuries. It's always been, we know it, dude. It's the blisters, the little hand issues here and there. Maybe a little bit of elbow discomfort has happened, but it's never been anything major. But it's just annoying injuries that keep him away multiple times throughout his career, away from the mound. So I mean, what just to kind of like tidy it up, what I'm trying to say is that I don't really think their current play, even though as exciting as it's been, should really change the trajectory of their game plan. Because we are in draft season and we are in deadline season as well.
Yeah, I think although this run has definitely been inspiring, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still 7 games under. The ground to improve is still there. It's not like, oh, look at this team playing like this. There's nowhere to improve anywhere, right? I definitely think. What year are we on of Eddie Cabrera? I mean, if
Uh,
we're on what, 4 or 5?
I want to say he debuted around like 21 maybe.
Yeah, so we're approaching year 5 of Edward Cabrera, and this is his best streak of his whole career. Now, while he's been very good this season, I think that now is the good time before we get a fall off to trade him. To be honest with you, I think that what we can get for him right now is a great piece. You and I have talked about it off podcast. Teams are always looking for pitching, so I think that right now is a good time trade into a contender and get something good that you could sustain for the future. um maybe like you said, he unlocked himself, and this is the Eddie Cabrera for the rest of his career, and we just don't know it. But there hasn't been enough of this in his career to say, oh, you can't trade this guy now.
Yeah,
To me, I think that
and I
you
do
just
want to
keep moving
also
forward.
add, I know I cut you off a little bit, but I do want to also add that I mean, if you're the Marlins, I don't worry too much about losing like certain starting pitching because I mean, I think they've proven enough with starting pitching over the years. I mean, right now they have Robbie Snelling in the minors, who I think is most likely. I mean, I believe anyways that he's prime candidate to get called up the minute they make a move for a starting pitcher. If Cabrera gets traded, he's probably the next man up. I mean, they probably, since they just moved him up to AAA, maybe they call somebody to be like a spot starter and then bring him up because I think funny enough today that we're recording, I believe today is when Robbie Snelling is making his AAA debut. So I mean maybe they give him a little time there in AAA, just kind of to see what's up. Even though he's proven everything at Double A, and I believe anyways that Double A is a better league just because at AAA you have a lot of the failed major leaguers compared to Double A where you have a lot of the top end prospects. But anyways, um, and I mean now that we're talking about this Marlins team and what they've been lately, I mean there are many directions I think we can take this conversation, but I kind of want to start off and ask if you were, I guess, a GM, if you were running this team right now and it's deadline season, who would you actively on this major league roster would you be taking calls on to trade away?
Well, I mean, for one, like we just talked about Edward Cabrera, that's a non-negotiable for me. I think that um I think that this has not been someone who's proven consistently that he should be on our roster for the long run. I think that it's time. It's just time to cut ties, and now is a good time for us to build on the future. Definitely Edward Cabrera. I think you could argue. I mean, you could argue Sandy, but no one's gonna take him right now because he's been horrible. Um, I would definitely take calls on probably some bullpen arms. I mean, i.e. Voucher for sure. Um, I wouldn't say, in my opinion at least, thinking of it now, I wouldn't really take calls on anyone in the offense other than maybe Jesus Sanchez. Jesus Sanchez is another one. He's had a good year this year, but we haven't seen enough of that to be like, okay, he needs to be in our roster for the long run.
Jesus Sanchez is, and I think somebody told me this on Twitter, and it kind of clicked in my head. He's basically been our offensive Edward Cabrera. Ton of potential, big homer guy. He has insane power. We've seen it. Especially the most notable one was the homer he hit in Colorado a few years back. Everyone knows what he is, but at this point, he hasn't done enough to, I think, even though he's been playing some of the best baseball, maybe not for power, but he's been hitting pretty well as of late, especially on this streak the Marlins have been on of playing good baseball. But yeah, he's just somebody who I would honestly look to trade. Teams always want, an extra bat, and especially if you're left-handed nowadays, because teams love platooning players, and it helps for contenders.
Yeah, so I mean, if you would have to ask me a top two players on offense, it would be Jesus, and on the pitching side, it would be Edward Cabrera. Definitely those two. I think our players, while they're hot, need to get moved for a somewhat decent package.
Definitely. I mean, I would agree with Cabrera and Sanchez, no doubt. I mean, um, I would honestly say, and this might be like a hot take of anything, there are two other players I have in mind that I would at least be willing to pick up the phone on. One of them that I think will get traded is going to be Anthony Bender. He's been having one of the better years
Yeah.
of his career. I'm pretty sure he's already 30. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but earlier today, the Orioles traded one of their relievers who's been having a pretty good season to the Tampa Bay Rays, and they got a compensation or a
Oh,
competitive,
pick.
yeah,
I
pick in
saw
the
that. Yeah.
draft, which is one of the compensatory picks. So I mean, maybe the Marlins go that route, even though I feel like they're they might get a pick back, you know, if they feel it necessary and trade him to the right team. But I also can see them easily getting like a decent prospect out of him. I mean, especially if maybe they throw him in with like another guy and package them, you know, as a package deal, and also another guy who I'm not saying I move him, but at least I'm picking up the phone and hearing teams out. If I'm Bendix at this point, it's probably a Dane Myers. I'm not saying you trade him,
I thought of him too, but I didn't want to say it. I thought of
but
him too.
I mean he has been playing well, even though lately he's cooled off from his hot start. You know, from his hot streak he was on and everything. But he's 30 years old, so it really just depends how much this team values age. You know, if they want to get younger in their outfield. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but Jacob Marcis, who I believe they
Yeah.
got in the Luis Arias trade, has been raking and looks like he's ready to at least show what he can do at the major league level. So I really feel like he's somebody who they want to call up but don't want to do it yet because I think an outfield is getting traded, no doubt, maybe two. If they really trade, if they really decide to move Dane Myers.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'd be willing to listen to almost anybody in the bullpen. The only guy in that bullpen who I'm not trading, maybe two of them would be Valente Bayoso. I guarantee some team would like to have him. You know, they could put
Oh
him in
yeah.
their rotation. I'm not listening to calls on him unless you get something that's like just like an insane offer for him.
Right.
You know, an overpay for what Bayoso is, and also Ronnie Enriquez unless you get like an overpay for him because I would
He's been
rather
pretty damn good too.
he's been pretty damn good and honestly I feel like if you keep him now and he keeps performing that way next year, you can probably get more value out of trading him next year. Um and anyone else, I mean, like you said, Calvin Poche can go, Bender, Balker, Lake Balker can also go. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, anybody in that bullpen besides maybe Bayoso and Enriquez are good to go out the door. If because that's the thing. I mean, Marlins have right now options at what teams need the most at the deadline, especially contenders, which is starting pitching. You know, they could even look to trade Quantrill, somebody who's been pitching well and could eat
Yeah.
innings for another team. Cabrera, and then almost anybody in their bullpen, and then two two outfield bats that I mean could either be a bench role for somebody or even like spot starters, you know, which would be Sanchez and Myers.
And I want to add before we wrap this topic up, in my opinion, I think bullpen arms are probably the most replaceable on the team. Um, so I've never gotten really attached to any of the arms. I think that just like when we traded Tanner Scott a few years back, I think that bullpen arms, of anything, are arms that can be replaceable on any team.
Yeah, I mean, I always think if you're a team like the Marlins, if you're in the middle of like essentially a rebuild, I mean, you have to be willing to trade away some of these relievers because I mean, take a look at the Pirates for example. They haven't been good for a while now, and they decided to keep David Bednar on their team, and now he's he's reduced to nothing. I don't know if he's still in the minor leagues or they ended up calling him back up. I
Yeah.
haven't looked into that, but it's like they should have traded him a lot earlier when he had that All Star season. Teams
Yeah.
wanted him then, and they said no, which is beyond me what they're doing over there. But anybody who's not a legit, if you're not like a legit contender, or you're not a year away from contending, you know, maybe even two, you gotta you gotta be willing to trade your relievers. Those guys,
Yeah.
relievers are way too volatile.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's kind of when we got in the Marlins. I mean, pretty exciting times.
That's our
Honest,
Marlins for the day.
yeah, and I mean, we'll definitely be bringing also a ton of coverage on their draft and their deadline, whatever they do
For
in
sure.
both of those. And the next one, since the last time we recorded, we have a few milestones. So we'll kind of go down the list of both of them and start off with Clayton Kershaw, who reached 3,000 strikeouts. He becomes a fourth lefty and 20th pitcher in MLB to reach this mark. I just want to get first your thoughts on that in general, and yeah, we'll move from there.
Yeah, I think Clayton Kershaw is a bona fide legend. I mean, you can't really find a lot of lefties that are better than him, and not just that. I think that um, to piggyback on that, I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You can't beat what Clayton Kershaw has done in his career, and I think that it was well deserved and well earned.
Definitely. I mean, like I mentioned, only the fourth lefty in MLB history to do it. I mean, it's I think if you're that dominant as a lefty, I can show you a player in their prime. I don't know, Tarek Skubal, for example. Like I think if you're that dominant and you're a lefty, it makes you just that much better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Lefties are always tougher to hit, especially someone like Kershaw, who always was known for having that devastating curveball. I mean, obviously he's a lot older. Don't know if this is gonna be his last season or not. I think it should be, honestly, if we're being
well, I
honest.
think I think what Rob Manfred did kind of alluded to the fact that it was going to be his last season, although it hasn't been said. I think what he did in regards to the All Star game, I think, kind of points to the
Yeah, making
direction
him
that
making him like a legacy ad.
yeah,
So I mean, definitely, I can definitely see it happening, and I think it should be. I mean, first of all, I want to mention a few things with him in general. Is like he not only got to 3,000 strikeouts, which shows his longevity and how great he was, but it also shows to the fact that he did it with one team, with the Dodgers. I mean, I understand that he started in a somewhat different era, but that's still pretty impressive for today's standards of the
never
game.
happens anymore.
I mean, players rarely stay with the same team for that long. So I think it's just overall impressive. And I mean, like we talked about, he's gonna be a legacy add to the All Star game. Dave Roberts is the manager, so there's an 100% chance he's getting into the game, no doubt. And I mean, it's just impressive, like the career he's carved out. I understand, and some people, and I don't want to bring this up just because it's part of his career, are gonna mention his playoffs.
Yeah,
But to be honest, I was really like studying them deep down, and his playoffs I think are blown out of proportion a little bit
of course.
because he, I mean, he wasn't no Madison Bumgarner in the playoffs either. I mean, just to name a rival lefty that was good in the playoffs,
Well, there
but
wasn't a lot of Madison Bumgarners in the playoffs.
yeah, but I mean, to be fair, when you go and ask people who would you rather have, I think more people would rather take a Clayton Kershaw over the
100%.
longer span of a career than a Madison Bumgarner. Even though, I mean, in the playoffs, I think it'd be a different story. But you're talking about a full career here. So yeah, I just think it's honestly pretty impressive. I do want to ask you though, what you think in general about him as a left-handed pitcher. Like, where do you rank him all time? Because I think that's a tough conversation to be had.
Well, you'd have to. I didn't see this list, so you'd have to tell me the other three that are on this list with him to reach the 3,000.
I'd have to pull that up right now because I don't have it right in front of me. But I know one of them was Randy Johnson for sure.
Okay.
I would just have to pull up the list of players. But I mean, I also do want to add while I look up this list that he also
Okay, I found it.
found it.
It's Randy Johnson, Steve Carlton, CC Sabathia, and Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, those are the four lefties to reach 3,000 strikeouts. And I mean, that doesn't mean that's the only four lefties because he becomes the fourth one, Kershaw. That doesn't mean that
Right.
those four are, in my opinion, the four best. Because you also have to look at certain guys that like Sandy Koufax, who was also
Right.
on the Dodgers. Which, by the way, I do want to add that it's pretty impressive that the Dodgers had two of the greatest lefties in MLB
Yeah.
history. But from that list, let's use that list as our basis. Who would you rank number one?
Well, I would say in this list, Clayton is two because it's hard to rank Clayton over Randy Johnson.
I
So,
I think I'd have to agree for sure. Although,
but if we're going off this list only, then for sure I would rank him two.
yeah, and I mean, just to kind of add a little bit to the conversation, I do find it very interesting, like how I think CC is a bit underrated. Like I mean, he reached 3,000 strikeouts and all, but I don't know. I feel like he's not held in the same regard
No.
as these other guys on that list.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's really not talked about enough. You'd think, and some would argue it's because of his, it's because of the Yankees, and a lot of people don't like the Yankees. But I think that he's also another legend.
Definitely. And then, so that's just a tip of the cap to Clayton Kershaw for reaching 3,000. You know, like we said, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, it's I mean, to me, honestly, what I was thinking about after I saw that was just like the moment that we get to finally watch, whether it's on TV or whether you guys go in person, and you get to see him like finally inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like this is a player who I essentially saw his entire career,
Yeah,
and also this picture floats around on the internet. This will be the last thing I say about this, about Clayton Kershaw and 3,000. But this picture floats around every so often in the internet. But he made a debut, I believe, versus Max Scherzer, and it was like they were replacing, I forget who right now, but it was like Greg Maddux, and
yes, yes.
I forget who the other guy was on Arizona's side, but it's just like kind of crazy that two of the greater, the best pitchers of all time, but of the 2010s, debuted together and kind of like face each other. And now
That
and now he's played long enough that he's gone up against guys like Paul Skeens and even Jacob Mizorowski now from the Brewers. So this guy's been around a long time,
he's had a long career.
and a tip of the cap to him. And now the next one that was reached, honestly, not that many days after, was Manny Machado reached 2,000 career hits, and
And this is a good one. Sorry to cut you off. This is a good one because I want to know if you change your tune because we talked about him at the beginning of the season. So I want to know now if you change your tune on him. So go ahead.
but I kind of wrote down here on our notes, of him reaching 2,000 career hits, that because I kind of want to talk about is how do you view him amongst the greats of the 2010s? Because and I'll let you open up first if you want, but I mean,
Well, let's circle back to the conversation we had at the beginning of the season, which was the conversation of him and Bryce Harper, because we talked about how those are two guys that they came into the league with flair and nobody liked them because of how they played with their fire and intensity. And we agreed that Manny Machado has not lived up to the same career as someone like Bryce Harper. And yes, although Machado did reach 2,000 hits, I still feel the same. I think that Machado has not come through the way that someone like Bryce Harper has. And I think that although he's great, he's definitely one of the greats of the 2010s. I think that he has not had an impact on his teams like some of the other players have.
I I will say this, and it is very interesting to look at because right now I'm pulling up their baseball reference page, both of them while you were giving your point and I was listening along, but I mean the one thing, well, not even the one thing, but just in general with Manny Machado is, and you have to give him credit for this because it's not very often it's done. He has played over 150 over 150 games multiple times in his career. He's had the longevity of not only he's played what 14 years. I'm looking right now at his baseball reference page. He's healthy most of the time. Um, he's he's on the field. He plays amazing defense. I mean,
Right.
I would honestly say that if it probably wasn't for like a Nolan Arenado, he maybe wins a few more Gold Gloves at third base. I mean, yeah, you can throw in guys like not. I wouldn't even mention Jose Ramirez or Matt Chapman because most of them played in the AL for a while, so they never had an impact on Machado winning a Gold Glove. You know, it's
Yeah.
mostly been Nolan Arenado, but I will say I think, and maybe my tune has changed a little bit, but I will say now that I think he's had a bit of an underappreciated and underrated career for what it's been.
That could be fair. I think it's fair. I think that the reason he's underappreciated is because of uh, his performance, or maybe the lack of performance in the big moments. In my opinion, I think that he hasn't had the moments that someone like Bryce has. Um, yeah, he's a great player, but when it matters, I mean, he hasn't really done anything, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm gonna put it like this, and I'm going to give full credit to the Chris Rose rotation. I don't know if you watched that show or have heard of it, but they are essentially another podcast on YouTube, and funny enough, they're part of John Boy Media. I'll reserve my opinions on John Boy for another day,
Sure.
but um, they were talking about this about Manny Machado reaching 2,000 career hits, and they used three players: Manny, Bryce Harper, and Mike Trout. Let's hypothetically
Yeah.
say you take those three and you take their career over the 2010s.
Hmm.
I mean, I think there is a case to be made when it's all said and done because Trout has dealt with a lot of injuries, because
Right.
Trout, I don't want to call him washed up because that hurts me to say, but at this point in his career, it does look like he's on the decline. He's dealt with way too
Hmm.
many injuries that you could maybe look back when it's all said and done and they're all retired, and statistically, on paper, by the numbers, Manny Machado ends up putting a better career together than someone like Trout.
Sure. I'm not disputing that. I agree. I think that although, yeah, Trout might be one of the best hitting players you've ever seen, I think that he's not dependable. And I think that that hurts his career. And I think that's inevitably he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. We know that. But I think that when you match him up against other players, people are going to be like, okay, well, this guy barely played. So, in that sense, I would agree with you.
And I mean, not only that, but Machado is currently at what three 357 homers. I think it's very doable. He's only 33. He plays a lot. He really doesn't have a history of injuries. He's he's always playing, like I said, 150 games at minimum a lot of seasons. I think there's a possibility where this guy could possibly reach the 200, I mean 2,000 hits, 500 homer club because he's
Maybe.
dependable and he's on the field.
Maybe. And this is not to say, by the way, I still think that if we go back to what you said about all those three players, I think that regardless, Machado, Harper, and Trout are all going to be in the Hall of Fame. I think that anyway.
Oh, no doubt.
But no doubt, I think that. But I think that and I guess you could argue the same thing with someone like Kershaw. I think that the career has lacked the big moments. Is all I'm saying.
Definitely, and I think also like, and I think this is a fair thing to say, and it's a fair reason to put like maybe even Harper at first of all of these is that I mean if you know anything about his career, he was basically held as like the next LeBron. Like he was cover of every sports magazine. You know, Harper when he was getting drafted. This is a guy who I don't know what the proper phrasing is, but he basically like tested out of high school early so that he
Yeah,
could go play in college and get drafted earlier. I mean, a guy who came up at 19 and he's lived up to all these expectations. And if not even
100%.
and I don't even know if you can necessarily say like he exceeded them, but I would say so. I
I
mean,
would
for all he's
agree.
done. So I definitely think that when it's all said and done with these with Manny Machado in the 2010s, he is gonna end up being, I think, one of the more underrated players, at least of the top end players. People know how good he is, but I feel like he's never revered or talked about in the same limelight. Like, because people will mention Trout now, and it's like they'll talk about his prime as the greatest thing ever, which I will not take that away from anybody. You know, Harper is the same thing, prodigy who has lived up to all the hype, but Manny has always felt like he's been in the shadow of those guys when I think he should be at least on their same level.
100%.
And that's
100%.
and unless you have anything else to add, that's kind of where I'll leave that one there. Um
No, I think that was good for me as well. I think I said what I needed to say there.
yeah. So now we move on, and this was probably one of the more surprising news. Not to me, it was not surprising because of what happened. This is surprising to me because of the timing of which it happened. The Nationals fired GM Mike Rizzo and manager Dave Martinez. I do want to add two things that I have written in my notes. They have the number one overall pick in the draft, which at this they did it like basically within the week of the draft. I don't know how much that is gonna affect the draft. I'd have to assume by this point you kind of have it narrowed down about who you like.
Right.
Even though I will add to anybody who likes draft talk, I don't think there's a clear number one pick in this draft. However, I think let's hypothetically let me say this: if GM Mike Rizzo liked, I don't know, I'll give you a name like Kate Anderson from LSU,
Hmm.
and maybe the draft director, their head draft director, didn't like him as much and like Ethan Holiday, as the number one pick. Then I think now that Mike Rizzo is out the door, they end up taking Ethan Holiday instead. So it's just little
Right.
small nuances there. And the other thing that is also a reason why both of these guys were fired, especially Mike Rizzo, is that they've been terrible at developing players.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll open the floor to you and let you have your thoughts.
Yeah, we had this conversation over the phone about, this whole situation with the Nationals, that are now currently sitting at last place in the division. They have CJ Abrams, they have James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, like all these players, and it's like they it's crazy. I just think it's absolutely insane that they're still in this little merry-go-round that they can't perform. You have all these great players and somehow the team still is not good. So these firings were well deserved. Hopefully this starts, because in my opinion, there's only up to a certain point where it's about the players. Um I think up to a certain point it's about the players, and then it transcends into it being about the coaching staff. He came out and said, a couple, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, Dave Martinez came out and said, you know, at some point it's about the players. I don't know if you remember him saying that,
Yeah,
but I disagree fully here. I think that they have a load of talent, and I think that the coaching was just lacking, and maybe up to the front office. And I think they realized that that's what needed to change. And hopefully this turns it around for them because I think that their on paper roster is much better than what their record says.
Definitely, I wouldn't say I wouldn't probably phrase it that their on paper roster is better. I would just phrase it that they have a good core in place. You know, like you mentioned, James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams,
Abrams, yeah.
those guys, but they just haven't built around it. And the thing is, right? They ended up trading for these guys in August of 2022. They traded Juan Soto. Everyone hails, that trade as one of the greatest trades. And I have to agree. I mean James Wood alone makes that trade great for them because he's an absolute superstar. And Abrams with Gore makes it that much better. And they have a few guys who haven't yet debuted. There's one pitcher, I forget his name, that was part of that trade who hasn't debuted yet. um, I believe they got another guy, Hassel the third is his last name. He also hasn't been too amazing for them, but I'm pretty sure he debuted already. I mean, the main issue is that teams that are good tend to spend money and they tend to develop players, and that's and I think developing players in the MLB is very important because of the way the minor league, the way the minor league system is set up for these teams, and they really haven't done that. I mean, they drafted, I forget what year it was in the draft, and they drafted a player by the name Elijah Green, who was considered one of the best high school players, and he simply has turned into nothing. I think he even got sent back down a level. I think there's a risk of him getting DFA'd. I mean, I think the Nationals just utterly failed him in developing him. Maybe he was destined to be a bust either way. It didn't matter who drafted him. But that just talks to the lack of being able to develop players. They drafted, I believe it was 2023 draft. They drafted Dylan Cruz with the second overall pick, or with the first overall actually, because Paul Skeens. Am I getting mistaken here? I forget who had the first pick. But anyway, in that draft, I think Cruz was the number 2 pick, and to the Nationals. And I mean, that draft class is loaded. Like, you can look around the MLB right now, and that draft class is loaded. You have a lot of players who have come up from that draft class and have been great. I mean, Nick Kurtz is one that sticks out to me. Jack Caglione is up, and he's been hitting homers, especially in the last few days. Um, right now, I'm probably missing a few names that have debuted from that draft class, but it's like, and I believe Dylan Cruz is actually hurt right now, so he hasn't played for a while. But it still feels like they're failing these players in their development. And Dylan Cruz wasn't like some over. No, he was a legit bat. Everyone knew this, and
Yeah.
I mean the Pirates. Now that I'm remembering correctly, the Pirates wanted to take him at 1, but Dylan Cruz didn't want to sign with them, and and that's why they ended up pivoting and taking Paul Skeens, which honestly might end up being the better move either way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think it's very disappointing to see them have this good of a core and then they fail at every other step of the way. And Mike Rizzo, I didn't even really like know this off the top of my head when I saw the news, but I ended up reading that apparently he'd been the GM for like 17 years and there's only one World Series, which was
Yeah.
2019.
It makes no sense. And maybe not the one World Series. I mean, the one World Series, whatever, because at least you won. But it's just like they lacked sustained success, and they have what I think is a pretty good core. So yeah, I think this was hopefully the step in the right direction for them.
Yeah, and I mean also if you want to talk about if you want to talk about years of failed development, I mean Victor Robles was another guy who
Oh yeah,
I remember specifically when he was a prospect. They said he was better than Juan Soto. He had better metrics, better stats than Juan Soto. He never developed at the major league level to be better than Juan
yeah,
Soto. I mean, he's turned it around a little bit with Seattle, even though I believe earlier this year he got injured on a play in the outfield and he's been out for a while. But it's not enough to justify anything, especially if he's doing better than he was with another team. And it's just, I mean, and it's not even because I mean, yes, they won the World Series in 2019. I believe that was the first one in franchise history. But it's just like they had guys on that roster. I mean, it wasn't only a Juan Soto. They had Max Scherzer, who they did nothing with. Meaning they they didn't get anything out of him when they moved him. You know, when they moved a guy like Trey Turner. You know, Cameron Ruiz, who's their current everyday starting catcher, has been terrible who they got, I believe, from
Yeah.
the Dodgers. I mean, it's just been you can praise the Juan Soto trade and call it amazing, but
But they've done nothing with it.
they've done nothing with it, and you can't keep repeating the cycle. Cause then what? You're gonna make James Wood the next Juan Soto trade? They it was time. It
Yeah.
was time for them to be traded. I just find it interesting when it was done because the one thing that I wonder, and it's not so much the draft because I feel like you already have that done and dusted with, you know, and and whatever whoever's taking over as GM probably tells the director of the draft, do what you think is best. We trust you with the info you have. That's fine. My thing is, how does this affect whatever they were gonna do at the trade deadline? Because now other GMs are not talking to Mike Rizzo. Now they're talking to a new guy, and you don't know if that new guy wants to do something different or what he wants to do.
I guess time will tell. And I'll end my part by saying that I'm not complaining as a Marlins fan. They could suck for 10 more years for all I care. But it's definitely interesting. I think that their team is much better than they've definitely shown out to be. And it people talk about being a Marlins fan, but I can't imagine being a Nationals fan right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too much there. Like, too, I don't know, man. Like we said, it's been terrible development, and you basically won one World Series and did nothing with
Yeah,
any of that. I mean, you didn't even get value out of the guys that you traded away, really, except for Soto. And if you don't
yeah.
do anything again, you're gonna end up in the same cycle all over again. But anyways, moving on to the All Star Game week, which it's if you want to count it, it starts this weekend. Because you got the Futures game with and the MLB draft this weekend, and then Monday you have the Home Run Derby. Um, I currently do not have any of the Futures games rosters put up, but I guess we'll make it a little bit of a Marlins bias here. If you saw Thomas White
Thomas White.
and Joe Mack are gonna be playing in the Futures game for the Marlins, and honestly, Thomas White becomes the first player in a long time. I don't have the exact details in front of me, but he becomes one of the first players in a long time for the Marlins to be a repeat at the Futures game, which I think shows a lot of promise with him. He's already up to Double A. I mean, I think there's a super strong possibility, especially if they make big time starting pitching trade moves that he debuts
Right.
by next year.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
he's been electric, flying up through the system, and it's been pretty fun to watch. Joe Mack as well is somebody who
I
has,
think we'll be seeing Joe Mack pretty soon, to be honest with you.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of teams that need catchers. Um, I would love to see this team maybe consider trading a Nick Fortes. You know, teams need catching depth. Get something out of him. Maybe you call up Joe Mack after, but I mean, he's somebody who's taken his little time, his bit of time to develop, but finally, he's having what I would consider a breakout season this year, and he's already up to Triple A, which has been pretty fun for him. Um, and honestly, it's just exciting. I mean, if he can even bring like an average bat to the major leagues, I mean, his defense is already,
And he's only 22.
yeah. I mean, so he's like if he can bring an average bat and that defense, I'm pretty sure he already won a platinum glove at the minor league levels. I mean, he can be a catcher on this team for a long while. So that's honestly pretty exciting for the futures game. Um, MLB draft. I mean, I'll kind of tell you. I recorded an episode last week which you guys should check out. I'll probably link it at the end or even in the description. But definitely, if you follow Box the Base on basically any platform, you can see a bunch of thoughts on the draft. I mean, there's a lot of. It's gonna be, I think, a very interesting and fun draft. There's not gonna. I think honestly, if you enjoy a bit of chaotic drafts in terms of you're not sure who's gonna be drafted where, I think you definitely have to tune in at least to day one, which is Sunday the 13th, to the MLB draft because really nobody knows, not even who's gonna be 1-1 right now. So and just to get a little biased on the Marlins, um, there is a million options that I think are gonna be available and could potentially go to the Marlins. So I don't know. I mean, if you want some cool names to look out for, I would just say Kate Anderson, Ethan Holiday, JoJo Parker, Seth Hernandez, um, Billy Carlson, Eli Wilkes, Ava Arquette, Wahiva Aloy. I mean, just some interesting names. But then we get into it. It's sometimes depending on the year, and I think this year is gonna be a good one. We get into the home run derby. I think this year's is shaping out to be pretty good. Here in my notes, I've listed out all the players who are gonna be participating. There's still 2 spots remaining, which I think is kind of crazy that we're this close to the derby and we still have 2 spots remaining.
One spot now. One spot. Someone just committed while we were filming this.
Really?
Yeah, it was Brent Rooker.
Well, there we go. Now we have 1 spot left, so Brent Rooker can be added to the list. But let me read out some of the names quickly. It would be Kyle Raleigh, James Wood, Junior Caminero, Byron Buxton, O'Neill Cruz, Ronald Acuna Jr. I'm gonna put an asterisk because recently he had lower back tightness. Don't know if he's gonna opt out. He hasn't yet. And as you just said, which I didn't know, but it just happened, Brent Rooker. So I mean, I don't know. Just quickly your thoughts on the Derby.
Yeah, I really don't get why Acuna is doing the Derby. I he started the year late. Um, I'm kind of confused. Maybe because he's a star player that he got the invite. He hit a
I mean,
home run last night too. By the
I
way, I
mean, I
think.
think I think it's because he's a superstar marketable player, and I think it has to do also with it's in Atlanta. But I mean, you could have also picked the Matt Olson or
Yeah,
maybe Ozuna, but I don't know if Ozuna would have wanted to do it.
it makes no sense to me. I like that Kyle Riley's doing it because he's the leader in home runs. I think that Judge should have done it as well. Um, um, O'Neill Cruz, I like. He has a lot of pop. I was kind of surprised by Byron Buxton, to be honest with you. I was surprised that he was in this lineup, just because. Yeah, he has 20 home runs, but I don't see him as someone that hits that smacks the ball around. If maybe I'm crazy, but I don't see him as that type of player.
I mean, definitely, I can see it. He's not like the most eye popping power hitter, I guess, if you will.
Yeah,
But I mean, hey, honestly, I'm just glad he's doing it because he's finally having a healthy season. He's been somebody who's been
yeah,
injured for so long, and I'm genuinely like wanted to see the guy healthy for once, and he's finally healthy. Even though he's finally healthy, and now the Twins aren't even in a playoff race,
yeah.
and there's talks about him being traded. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it's just ridiculous that that's what the game has turned into.
And then obviously James Wood and Junior Caminero are power first guys. That's gonna be fun. Um, and then Brent Rooker's obviously a power first guy as well. So it's gonna be a fun derby, I think.
If you had to pick out of the current guys that we know, because we're still missing 1 spot to win, who would you pick?
Yeah, I'm picking Raleigh. I'm picking Kyle Raleigh. Kyle Raleigh.
Honestly, you can't go wrong with a Kyle Raleigh pick. But I genuinely, and I'm gonna go with this. I don't know if this will be a hot take or a hot pick, whatever. But I'm gonna go with Caminero just because I feel like he might have like an easy, repeatable swing and not tire himself out as much. Even though Raleigh, I think the same way. I'm just curious if Raleigh's gonna switch hit because he's a switch hitter. So maybe
And
he
my dark horse is O'Neill Cruz. That's my dark horse.
Yeah, he definitely is. And hey, we sprinkled in all the Marlins bias on this episode, but I'm gonna do it one last time, and I'm going to say there's 1 spot left. he really only has what, like two less home runs. Throw in Augustine Ramirez into the Derby. That'd be fun.
That would be fun too.
That would be
Although
fun.
I think he'd get tired, but I think he has a violent swing, so it'd be hard for him to do it for whatever the time is, 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think it would be fun to see him do the Derby.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, dude. I mean, I don't see him saying no if the MLB calls him right now. So
No, of course not.
come on. And then I quickly want to get into here to wrap up the episode into a bit of the All Star game. In general, like do you like honestly the one question I'm gonna leave it off with is who do you think was snubbed? It could be in either league. It could be two or three players. It could be one player. Just in general.
Who do I think was snubbed? I mean, I think because yeah, I mean, again, it might be some bias, but I think Ramirez was snubbed. To be honest with you, I think he's the best rookie in the NL. I think he should have gotten a spot. If we're being honest, I
Definitely.
I think that that's probably the biggest snub. I think if it keeps on this way, he has a legit chance to win Rookie of the Year. So to be honest with you, I'm kind of disappointed that he's not representing the Marlins in the and that's no shade to Kyle Stowers. I think Kyle Stowers is having a great year, but I think that Ramirez is the best rookie in the NL.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna pick like an odd pick for a snub because technically he's in the All Star game, but I'm gonna say James Wood because I find it a little ridiculous that he's not a starter. I mean, the year he's having, he's he's been fantastic, and he gets in only as a reserve. I think he should have been a starter. But anyways,
Yeah.
I will throw my Mets hatred out the window, and I will agree with Mets fans and say that I do think Juan Soto. He started off the year slow, but he's Juan Soto, and I was never too worried that he was gonna turn it around, and he has. And I think he should be on the All Star team. I mean, my my only little debate and a caveat there, if anything, is that people were asking like if it was Kyle Stowers who snubbed him out of a spot. It wasn't. If anything,
Or was it?
Kyle Stowers has been better than Tatis. Tatis is only better on defense and stealing bases at this point. Yes, Tatis probably is the better overall player in the long run, but we're talking about current All Stars are based on what you're doing right now. And Soto, I think, should probably be in there over a Tatis. Not Kyle Stowers.
Yeah, I was gonna be a hater and not mention Soto, but I agree. I do think he
And
was snubbed.
and and also Seiya Suzuki. I don't have his full stats in front of me, but I mean everyone's been saying it, and he's been having a really good year for the Cubs. A big reason why the Cubs are playing well. So I definitely think that's another guy I'd mention. I I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I really have anybody in the AL right now that comes to mind. Um, Although the only thing I can say for the AL is that apparently Jose Ramirez decided not to participate in the All Star game. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see that.
Apparently he wants to rest instead of playing the All Star game, which I think is a little BS in my opinion. Like you were voted
Yeah,
in, you're the best third baseman in the American League. Why not just play? And the last thing I'll mention, get your thoughts on it, and we can, I guess, wrap up the episode on this final note, is that they're gonna be using the ABS challenge system at the All Star game.
I think this is pretty hilarious to end the video on this because I think it's absolute garbage. To be honest, I think it's absolute garbage. We tested it already in the spring training. Now we didn't use it for the first half of the season, and now it's like, hey, by the way, we're gonna use it for the All Star game. Like the whole thing, with the umpires and all this crap. I think it's all crap. I think that Rob Manfred is just trying to delay the process for whatever reason it is, but this should have started at the beginning of this year and stayed. Have
Yeah,
the whole year. Now, for some reason, during the All Star game, we're gonna use the ABS. I think it's just crap.
yeah. I mean, I will say to give, I guess, a different perspective and genuinely my thoughts is that I do like at least that they're using it for the All Star game. You know, another time to showcase it. Even though like it's been tested in the minor leagues for a while now. It was used in spring training. Players and 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 also the debate has been robot umpires versus ABS system, because the ABS is just like you challenge umpires call instead of,
Right.
you know, the just full on robot umpires. Apparently, according to players who voted on the matter, they like the ABS system over robot umpires. So hey, if that's what the players like, then at least it's a better system than having
Right.
umpires just completely ruin games and at bats because they make terrible calls that you can't review.
Right. I
Um,
I I agree.
so honestly, but yeah, I kind of have to agree with you. I mean, we use it in spring training. It's been tested for a while. Like I personally, to my eyes, I don't see any flaws with the system right now. But I did see this on Twitter, so it's not an original opinion. But somebody said, I mean, that if you were to implement the ABS system right now, it would instantly be better than what we have, no matter
A
the
thousand
flaws it
percent.
has.
A
No matter
thousand
the flaws.
percent.
So I mean, I'm just happy that it seemingly feels like we're getting closer to it actually being implemented, and it'll. I mean, I'm curious to see how they use it at the All Star game. Personally, I hope that they kind of adjust the rules for it and give them more than two, because I believe they only get like two per game, at least in the minor leagues. Is kind of how the rule goes. I hope you give them a little more, just because it's the All Star game and it's at this point a meaningless game,
Right.
and you allow them to use it a little more. But yeah, I do also want to add, funny enough, I forgot what pitcher was asked when they were asked which hitter uh they see most likely to use it, and funny enough, the guy who was called out for that was Jazz Chisholm,
Yeah. Of course.
which of course, you know, it doesn't surprise me that it'd be Jazz.
Yeah.
Uh,
It doesn't, to any Marlins fan, that's not surprising.
yeah, this guy would use it unlimited times if he had the ability to do so.
Yeah.
He would use it on every on every call on him. But yeah, anyways, that'll basically wrap up the episode. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you all next week, and we'll definitely be doing a ton of, you know, draft content and even deadline content. I know there was a few trades today, but I didn't feel they were that big, so I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't really
Yeah.
care to mention them too much. But once these bigger trades start happening, once the deadline is over, we'll definitely have a lot of more coverage. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Make sure to share the episode and catch you all next week.